Welcome to Big Skeekus. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
And I'm Joe, and you did that flawlessly.
Flawless. Isn't that like a Mortal Kombat thingy?
Flawless victory.
Flawless victory, yes. Episode 79 of our podcast. Boy, we are creeping close to, we're hundreds within sight. The date is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022.
Yes, and welcome to everybody that's in the chat already.
What's that now?
I said, welcome to everybody who is in the chat.
Oh, yeah. We got a handful of good folks. Shadow's Son, Duke Money. Darth is here. Mr. Theak.
I'm hoping for some others, maybe some new folk.
Oh, fun.
From Twitter, the Twitterverse. So that won't be a problem at all.
No, there won't be any issues a bit. So,
yes, we are less than 100 away from our 250 mark. On our subscriptions.
Well, I've been thinking about that a little bit. I'm not ready to announce yet. I know one thing that's going to be there. Mr. Duncan Bradley's in. Max Boivin has joined us. So,
Bovine. I want to say bovine. I want to say bovine so much. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And you usually call him Bolton. That's okay. Max understands. He's cool like that.
I'm telling my wife I need some water. So that's why I'm looking down.
Sure. We played last week, didn't we, Joseph?
We did.
We played Saturday.
It was a group effort.
It was. And we played Earth Dawn. I don't think Max is here. I enjoyed it. And, Shadow and Sun's at 225 subs. Nice, dude. Yeah. I've been catching bits and pieces of your all your cool little podcasts there, old school love there. It's sweet.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we're still sub 200.
That's all right. We keep working, man.
We're at 156. Actually, we gained a couple over the weekend. So that's good. Yeah.
So first pass of Earth Dawn for me was the first time you ever played Earth Dawn, Joe?
Yes, the very first.
What were your thoughts, man?
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of games. The system is fine as long as it's not a complete piece of garbage. If you have the right crew there at your table, it largely doesn't matter as long as the system and setting are ones that you like. We're into fantasy stuff, and this isn't quite medieval fantasy, so it's a little different, but not so much different from D&D that it wasn't easy to pick up. The dice conventions are a little different, but all the same kinds of things. You roll to hit, you roll to succeed at tasks. When you're a spellcaster, you roll to cast a spell, I think is what was going on.
That sounded right. Neither you nor I were playing spellcasters.
No, there were already a couple of picked, so I picked the Sword Master.
And I picked a Human Thief, and I listened to a podcast by our buddy Mr. Large, and he did a thing on the Thief, like I think maybe today or yesterday.
Yeah, something like that.
And I have a lot of those feelings, and he inspired me with Mud Sword, dude. Don't want to talk about it here, but I got some ideas. If we want to get away from D&D, I mean, in terms of copying just a D20, I think he inspired me. Have you listened to that episode?
I just saw it a blurb about it, but I didn't.
Bet if you listen to it, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably know what I'm thinking already, but I'm going to jot some things down.
I mean, we have one mind.
We are one.
We are of a mind.
Yes, we are.
I mean, we only each have a half a brain, so
correct. So
that's what that really means. Not like we're psychic or anything.
No, it's not like we're the Borg.
No.
But
no.
So, dude, I just realized I'm playing tomorrow. I'm playing. I got a Deadlands game I run with Josh, Silent Josh, on Wednesday night, so he can get a little playing in. He doesn't get the weekends off. And I have a really cool idea, which I'm not going to share it tonight, but it's going to be fun. And then I may play Saturday, 3rd edition D&D with our buddy Tim and his boys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we have to, let's see. We played 4th edition.
Right.
And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly from what Max from Legion of Myth said, there aren't armor defeating hits in 4th edition, I believe.
But
so we can't do it from experience, so we'd be kind of like...
at first blush, I like that.
Like the idea.
Wound threshold. I did like that. Because, by the way, folks, my dude just about got utterly obliterated. I was so close to dead.
One hit.
Yeah. So it wasn't even funny. But anyway, my thief thought I was going to fight a zombie one-on-one, found out that wasn't going to happen, nearly ripped my face open. I had 3 wounds before I knew it. And I was like, and we found out you got to heal up and be at full hit points, and then you can start healing wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we kept playing. We were going to play without my dude. I was going to play another one because our buddy Patrick, who subbed last week, thank you, Patrick, did such a fine job. I listened to that episode. You guys did really good. It was fun. He ran a great game, and he had some pre-gens that I could have just grabbed one and jumped in. And I would have done that because I wouldn't wanted you guys to wait around. But you took my wimpy little butt on down the road. We didn't get too far to that. So luckily, I think I'm at 2 wounds now or something like that. So
I was trying to arrange having a bed kind of pulled along by our horses, just, for funsies.
Yeah.
You're on a bed.
Oh,
or maybe.
Sorry. Shadow Sun. Oh, Deadlands and my son have been playing Shadow of Brimstone. Well, I'm playing the Savage Worlds version. I used to have the original, which was fun, but the original had way too many, 45 billion stats. I just, you played the original, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah, it's been so long. I don't remember any details except the cards. That's really the only thing I remember.
And Shadows of Brimstone is a board game that really, I played it when it came out at Gen Con, or I watched my cousin play it and he bought it. It's just looks completely like Deadlands.
The art.
Oh, and the board play, it's like you're fighting Cthulhu monsters and stuff. It's pretty, and it's awesome looking. But yeah, we're going to play 3.0 because our buddy Tim Scott's going to, his boys have made characters 6th level. I actually asked them what level, and it was, they said 6. So I said, okay, we're going to do it. So that's the plan anyway. We'll see if it happens or not. We had an issue last week.
So, and you're running it.
I am, of course. Yes, I'm running a 3rd edition game. I've already got it prepped. Read an old.
What was it like prepping a new 3rd?
It was fun. I think what I needed was a long break from 3.x.
And you've had one.
I have had it for years. I think I can get back into it, which I'm glad I made the decision not to get rid of my 3X and Pathfinder books, because just reading a module, like, oh yeah, fun, attacks of opportunity and this and that and these cool abilities and power attack and cleave, and I was like, it's a little, like I said, it can be overwhelming, but I'm not going to say it's not off the table. It's back on the table. Meat's back on the menu, boys.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be playing 3rd edition at some point.
I still have Butch's character somewhere kicking around.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, we'll start. That's where we still got to do that sort of final.
He has his quest to find his creator.
And he has that dude he needs to get vengeance on still.
Oh yeah. Sword inserted in very, very painful locations.
And if anybody's wondering, too bad Butch isn't here, or too bad Max isn't here. Butch is in Sigil, City of Doors. He's planescaping it right now.
He does not like Sigil in the least.
He thinks it's the greatest setting he's ever been in. In fact, he won't even go through a portal anymore. He loves it so much. All right. So we got some call-ins. You said, before we do the call-ins, why don't we congratulate Taylor at Cleric's Ringmail?
Yes. Taylor's wife had a boy. I'm not really sure precisely what day it was. I think it was last week.
Sometime
recently, may even been before last week. But Taylor, congratulations on your newest son. You now have 3.
Yeah, dude.
You could be. He's the new that he can make a new a web series called My 3 Sons. Now it would be, the new My 3 Sons starring Taylor and his
get
boys.
His wife to play. He has a classic 4-person table. They're ready for D&D.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's got a table built in.
He does. But yeah. So
But
who?
yes,
Oh, a couple more. Shadzar's in. Martinson's in. You said what is Shadzar saying? The moment the stream went live. I don't.
yeah.
I've seen that before. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. See, we've been tracking down some sort of issue. Don't know what it is. It's probably some sort of interaction between, like he's saying, StreamYard and YouTube. Because what happens is once we get to the point where we have a topic and everything, I set up the stream in StreamYard, and it automatically creates it in YouTube.
Oh.
And I make a thumbnail and I put it all together. I don't do the description is very short, but it's something for people to grab a hold of. And it's supposed, and there's a check mark in there for embedding. So when I put the link somewhere in social media, a window, there's a small window that's made that people should be able to watch it from. So you could stay in Discord, say, and just hit the play button and not have to leave, because people like doing stuff like that. Yeah. So let's see here. Let me
get up these call-ins. I got some calling in. I'm going to be doing over at Red Dice Diaries and probably at Taylor's as well. We need to make a few comments.
Yep, the allow embedding is now unchecked, even though I checked it and saved it. There's some sort of thing, and there's really not a whole lot of settings on StreamYard. So, I mean,
well, technology is awesome sauce.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's pretty cool that you can have StreamYard set the thing up for you and have very little to do. But it's not without its hiccups, apparently. So I just re-enabled embedding, so it should be able to be reloaded and should work. So let me get back to my thing here.
Yeah.
Do some sharing. Oh, and incidentally, I also have been working on. I've been working on being a little more independent from something like a StreamYard.
Oh.
With OBS is a software that I have. I've been watching a lot of videos about it. And we might be able to, since we found out that it was my internet connection, not yours, that was causing our problems, we might be able to go back to, what was the very first thing we were using? Skype.
Yeah.
So I could set up OBS, you could Skype in, and I can just use OBS all by itself.
Oh.
It's something to think about.
Omen Owl says when technology, it's Omen Owl, which I like that name. When technology works, it's great. And when it doesn't, it's terrible. Fact. And it's always going to be Joe's fault because I'm not smart enough with the tech to make mistakes.
Shads are
completely stupid.
Right. Yikes. I hear 3 Joes because the YouTube embed is working. That should be great. That should be like Nirvana, hearing my voice, tripled.
And if you're hearing two or three of mine, I don't even know why you'd need to do anything else for the rest of your life.
Scream, maybe.
Yeah, Scream. This is, oh no, shut up, you dorkheads. Okay, so you do.
I was told that my voice is partially, at least a little bit. What's the guy's name? Never mind. A singer. I can't remember his name because I'm old.
Not when we're out of sync.
Oh, yeah, out of sync.
Are we ever out of sync? I mean, really, when you think about it. Yes, most of the time.
All right. So one of the things with OBS, let's say, that I would be improved, I think, is audio sharing. I can have it set up that I don't need to switch screens around and do a whole lot of clicking. Gotcha. This is, to me, this is a pain.
Well, you're the tech guy. Where you go, I will follow.
Obviously.
Technology-wise. Because I'm
All right. We got 2 short messages from John Allen Large, the aforementioned thief poster.
Yes. Thief on the poster.
Yeah. All right.
Hey there, guys. It's John here from the Red Dice Diaries, just listening to your Keeping It Real episode. And I thought it was quite interesting when you were talking about how NPC clerics or priests or whatever don't have to be done in the same way as player character clerics. And I forget exactly which version of D&D it was, or maybe it was a retro clone, I can't remember. But I always sort of operated under the impression that the PC clerics, they were the adventuring clerics, you know, going out to like forge a path into the wilderness and bring the good word of their deity to whoever was out there in the wilderness. So the god blessed them with certain powers, i.e. the spells, because they were going to need them. Whereas your average like village cleric or whatever doesn't really need those powers. So they might have a few lesser abilities, but they're probably not going to have the spells. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode, guys. Keep up the good work. I'll catch you soon.
So John basically said my way was best.
Yes, he agreed with you. I mean, completely. I mean, it's like you paid him.
I'm saying nothing. I'm not telling you who I'm supporting. But John, the check is in the mail. 25 cents is on your way. Which,
boy,
well, that'd be like 6 cents in England, though, right? The dollar.
You just lost some money. I mean, that check isn't even worth cashing.
No, but anyway, no. I mean, I said the same thing, and we talked about how I thought I do like our take in Mudsword, how the lawgivers were the Templars that adventure and beat the faith, show the power of their god, and the priests are the one that stay around. And I think maybe my thought of them not having any powers might be a little bit strict, depending on what you want in your.
It'd just be different.
It would be different. So the priests were just kind of faithful. They're truly just faithful, and they believe. They don't have magical powers to verify that, except they see the lawgivers do what they're doing. But yeah, I definitely agree with John. Yeah.
Healing potions. Oh, these modern day NPCs don't know they were born. In my day, all we had was one potato between 20 of us, and we were glad of it. None of your fancy schmancy healing potions. 30 gold pieces. I think I'm made of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. That is very funny.
That is true.
Gonna have to save that one for later.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Those are our only two.
Well, when John does it, you don't really need any more. The truth is, he covers all the bases.
Right.
So, let's be honest.
What would be cool is if I can get it figured out, is when I play a message like that, what would pop up is just a little like window here between us with a maybe a sound wave or something like that, or maybe John Allen's icon for his podcast, or maybe his face, because who doesn't want to look at John Allen large?
No kidding. He's the dude, man.
Right. All right. So moving along.
Okay. So
but on the healing potion thing, I was getting ready to say before, and I know I said moving along before I was really ready to move along.
Technically, you interrupted yourself.
I did. I reneged. So we talked. The first message said something about clerics being different if they were cloistered. Is another word for it. They stay home. What I think would be cool is if they didn't just have all the same spell progression, whatever. Right. They don't have necessarily spells, but they would be the ones making the holy water. They'd be the ones, if someone is making the potions, they can do that.
Yep.
What are they doing all day?
Yeah, true.
I mean, since they don't have healing powers to go cure the sick everywhere, all they're doing is, sweeping up the temple anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that's one potential thing they could do. They could, they're doing like whatever any religious person would do for their community, mm-hmm. Being in charge of whatever religious rites or all that stuff, ceremonies, with the typical ones would be like blessing buildings and blessing newborns, sacrificing newborns. Depends on the religion.
Yeah, right. Baptism or drowning, whatever works best.
Clearing out the prisons and putting them on the altar and that kind of thing. So it depends.
Got a good comment there. That's one thing. It's just a particular attending services, praying, copying holy text. I didn't think of that. in a quasi medieval setting, that's probably a pretty valuable thing. You mentioned cloistered clerics, which fascinates me. I don't know if you recall this, Joe. There was a Dragon magazine article where they had a class called the cloistered cleric, and I remember you guys reading that and going, he sucks compared to the cleric. I was like, he's an NPC class. He sucks. I would never play him. He's not really for you.
No, he's for the he's for the DM, which is weird. NPC classes is weird.
It's kind of weird, but like, well, for example, what about the monsters? I mean, in 3rd edition and beyond, even in, I can't remember, in second, the second start pushing playing monsters. I know there was an adventure at the end of 2nd edition, the Reverse Dungeon, where you played the goblins and were trying to stop the PCs. But I know in 3rd edition, when Savage Species came out, became this glut. Everybody wanted to play monsters. The monsters, the DM.
There was something like that in 2nd edition. I can't remember the name of it though.
Okay.
I know Max has mentioned it a couple of times. Not Codex, not Monsters Codex, but something. Council of Worms, was that 3rd or 2nd?
That was 2nd. It was a box set, but it was about dragons and playing their minions and playing dragons.
Yeah, so there was that, but I think there was something else too. But I can't remember.
Yeah, I just know the idea of playing. My point was, if the monsters in the DM's purview, I don't know if it's that weird to have NPC classes. I have to admit it was kind of weird to say, how can a human be able to be an NPC? I mean, I would say most of the time you could let players play NPC classes, but they usually suck, except for a handful. Some of the NPC classes were actually better, like
the Necromancer.
What was he called? Was it the Necromancer? And there was also
Deathmaster. The Deathmaster.
Deathmaster. Oh my gosh.
The Ninja.
Yeah. Ninja. Yeah.
There were a few. The Archer. There was an Archer class. I heard someone talk about.
Archer class I had. It was boss.
Yeah.
The 16 per error. Oh, here you go. Shadzar found it.
Yeah. Complete Book of Humanoids. There we go.
There you go. Good call. Yeah. Arthaic, good point. They'd be preaching the good word.
If that's what they do.
Oh, true.
I mean, let's look at the Greek pantheon. Okay. Right. In history, did the Greeks preach?
Right. No, now he was saying, I think he was saying that's the thing they could be doing.
That is it. That is the thing they could be doing.
Right. The point is, there's plenty of things for cloistered clerics to be doing.
Oh yeah, lots and lots.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to be specific.
No.
You don't have to make a gigantic list as a DM. You might make a short list so that you have some ideas if someone asks.
Sure.
But unless so you somehow have them randomly run into a cloistered cleric in town, and the PCs for some reason want to know what they're doing. What they're doing, what their priestly activity is at the moment, if it's not obvious already. Then you can have a few things written down where you can just decide or roll or something like that, however you want to do it.
Getting too far down the rabbit hole, but Shadow and Sun says the witch was pretty cool, but my favorite was the ninja. Of course, the ninja was your favorite because he was boss, and then probably his favorite as a DM. I let a player play a ninja once. I let a player play a witch once. They were both mistakes. They had some super powerful things, or I was just a sucky DM, which is possible.
No, they were broke. As well as the I'm pretty sure the Deathmaster was as well.
I think I nixed that one right from the go. You
didn't want a PC to become a lich, because that's what happens at pretty sure it was 13th level.
13th or 14th level, yeah, that was their
13th. 13.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 13th.
Yeah, whatever. It was a thing. Yeah, but that was a good
death. And Shadow and Sun also says anti-paladin. I remember a really big article about that, where they went into great detail about how the anti-paladin would trick a bunch of PCs to coming into his castle and give them a 3-part poison. Part of it would be in the food, part of it would be in the candles, and maybe part of it would be in the drink. I can't remember if that was all of them, but yeah.
Was the idea that they would not really notice?
Right. The 3-part poison, you're dead. There's not really, because not one of them individually is a poison, so you don't necessarily make a poison save. But I think I think if you get all three, it's a really big penalty, or maybe even no save. Who knows? I can't remember all the details. I remember that particular thing about that article, and just saying how. I mean, truly anti opposite of paladin, because a paladin wouldn't be that cowardly. He would do straight up battle, or he wouldn't he may not try to beat the whole party all by himself, because that's kind of dumb, but he would challenge someone one-on-one. He would be straight up about it.
No, but yeah, he wouldn't be stupid. I'm not going to go fight a whole evil party. So.
Right. So
all right. So shall we move on to the next?
Yeah, because we don't have any other messages or emails or anything like that.
Okay, on to Articles. So you found, I think this was Silent Josh found this, or did you find it? Did you send this to me?
No, that was Silent Josh.
DC's days are numbered in bounding into comics, an actual good website. Shane Davis was interviewed. Eric Skyver said that way back too. The Comicsgate guys. Did you get a chance to really read that? I thought it was a couple of very interesting things there.
Well, actually, I didn't read that article, but not read. I've listened a lot to Eric July, the last, I think I listened to him almost every day.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure he went over this article as well.
Basically, it's saying it's just a matter of time. What I thought was, I think everybody's heard about the super nice office they had for the DC people. Now they moved them to a place where the artists and everybody, all the creators, have to share space, share cubicles. And I saw a big Eric Skyver YouTube video. He had a couple of guys that give me a second. The L tab guy. Yeah, there you go. Ethan Van Skyver, why is Randy trying to make Eric Tinker have a kid with Ethan? What?
You must have said it wrong.
Okay, I must have slipped it up. All right. Thanks for the catch, Shanzar. But anyway, Eric, I guess I have to be clear because it's multiple Erics, so that's fair enough. Eric Skyver had a video.
Van
Skyver. Oh, Van.
You got to be precise, or
we'll get punished. But anyway, he had some of those pros. He had Shane Davis. He had that LTAB guy that quit because of the crap they're doing to Superman. And by the way, I supported almost all of those guys. That day I watched it. I've got like 6 or 8 Indiegogo projects I'm supporting now, except I couldn't do Indominus Rex or Indomitable Rex, which is Shane Davis's. A little too sexed up, a little too much for me. But I did think, and I'm all about this. What's up? What you laughing at?
It's Ethan.
Oh, it's Ethan. Oh, dude. Okay. Anyway, Van Skyver, thank you. And I have Cyberfrog's collected stuff. You would think I would know that, but
yeah.
The whole point is DC's looking like it's just going to be an IP in the end. I can't imagine Warner will hang on to them too long. And putting comic artists sharing cubicles just sounds bizarre, especially on a big company like DC, which used to be big. But he said something that kind of caught my attention. If you can bear with me, Joe, you can take over a little yakety. I'm going to find real quickly here this article, because
was it multiple artists sharing the same cubicle, or was it an artist and writer and something like that?
It could be a whole team. Even so,
I could understand that somewhat.
I could, but I would not like. I mean, if I'm an artist, they like, from what I've seen, when I've seen behind the scenes on like D&D, what they call the Four Horsemen back in 2nd edition, the big artists, they had their own space and like to have their own space. An artist, I am not a painter or a drawer or a sculptor, but it seems like they need a lot of room.
Sure.
Anyway, he made a comment. I want to find this because it kind of shocked me. He said sales are down, and Davis thinks part of the reason is the monthly release model is obsolete. And DC is hurting its brand by saturating the market. And first I was wounded because my heart loves the idea of a monthly because I grew up on monthlies. Couldn't wait for the next piece. But I get what they're saying. It's kind of too much. We've said before, there's too many damn comics on the shelf. And I
It
don't
depends
know.
on what you're saying. Sure. I mean, monthly would be okay. Superman monthly would be okay
But not
if there was one Superman title,
bingo.
one Spider-Man title, all of that, not 7 or 8 of each. And if Superman appears in 70 other titles,
Yeah.
I mean, then that's something else to like Justice League and Justice League East and West and Down Under and On the Moon and whatever else. I mean, it can be a little bit. It can be a bit. It can be
Expensive and
daunting.
annoying. Expensive
Yeah.
and honestly, even for a big fan like me, it was more annoying than expensive. I mean, when I collected, I mostly had the money to collect. I never had to quit because of a monetary issue. But it's funny that that's happening, and they've really let some iconic characters just go to complete crap. And another comment someone else made was about manga and Marvel. Is Marvel still selling pretty well? I was under the opinion that Marvel wasn't doing that great either.
I know Eric. The only source I have is hearing Eric talk about their DC sales. I don't know about Marvel.
Yeah,
because he doesn't talk a whole lot about Marvel. He talks mostly about DC because there's more controversy with the DC titles, with Superman being gay and whatnot, and all of the DC titles, shows on say the CW. But so I don't know, but I for sure DC is in the tank.
Darth says DC no longer assigns. I think he means desks, right?
Desks must be desks. I didn't know what you meant by deck, but yeah, desk. That's probably what.
Limited number they have to share. It would suck, I would think.
That's no good.
Shadow and Stone makes a good point. Inflation could be another problem for them. I think they were well in trouble before the inflation started.
It doesn't help. So there's if you're looking at any industry's sales right now, except for ones that are taking advantage perhaps of the situation, any industry that would be booming right now, like weapon sales and all of that. Construction, I think, was up. Well, then there was a lack of materials, and then I think that corrected somewhat. Disney doesn't give factual sales numbers of anything, and Disney owns Marvel, so yeah. That makes sense.
I agree.
So, what was I saying? I lost my train.
Construction, inflation, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, so there's lots of different pieces to inflation right now. So with our current situation with the COVIDs, which is gone somehow. The shutting down of the economy led to inflation initially, and that was hitting us at the end of Trump's administration and the beginning of Biden's, and then their policies have exacerbated it. Yep. And now the conflict over in East Europe is exacerbating it even more.
Sure.
And then there's various industries that are popping up and popping down, and popping up and popping down as far as supplies and whatnot. So it's a weird mess we've got right now. Yeah. And there's lots of pieces to that. And then throw into that, for the comic books, their bad choices.
Yes.
So
SJW, look at us be activists. And they mentioned, was it bisexual Superman's son, who is also a climate activist? Who wants to read about, they've always been comics have always been a little bit edgy with stuff like that, but they're just it's not even subtext. It's not it's just right in your face and beyond aggravating. And when I read it, I was kind of very and I know I'm not reading them, but I just hated to see I hate the idea. I guess it's because my heart's still back when I was young. I just hate the idea of DC and Marvel just dying as comic books, but it may happen, and that was commented. I do think that one silver lining was a comment that maybe they would sell out individual characters for other companies to do stuff, but they'd probably still make them be stupidly woke.
Those guys have weird relationships with the IP and the licensing and who can do what with the images and all of the lore, how all that works in print or on film. It's all different licenses. So even let's say Disney, who won't do this because as a parent company, they don't need to, unless Marvel somehow becomes very toxic and really damages their bottom line overall. They might, because of the movies, keep the comic book thing afloat and just subsidize it either directly from movie sales or from other from Marvel movie sales, or indirectly from their other ventures. So I'm not sure who the parent company of DC, but they're not their own company either. I'm pretty sure they're owned by Viacom or some other.
There's a Warner Media. You think there's something above Warner Media?
Does Warner own DC?
Warner Media owns the comic rights.
Okay, so Warner Media. So they're the parent company of DC apparently. Right. So, and I don't know Warner. I wouldn't be surprised if Warner had some parent company.
Oh yeah, it's all.
There's like, I heard someone say that there's like 3 or 5 companies that own all broadcast movie media. It's like 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad we keep monopolies out.
Right. But those companies, if they want to keep their subsidiaries afloat, they'll just subsidize and not worry about it, and they won't sell them off because there are bits of those things that are valuable.
Now look at the Hulk. Martinson says Universal owns the film rights, Marvel owns the TV and comic rights. Oh, Shadzar, here he is. Discovery now owns Warner. AT&T sold it to them. Okay, there you go.
Oh yeah, I heard something about that.
Oh, and dig this. Boy, he's on top of it. HBO Max and Discovery Plus are being merged. Okay. Well, maybe it'll come down.
Awesome.
Yeah, so whatever. It's just, I'm glad I'm supporting these dudes. Support the Comicsgate guys. This is all caps. Ethan Van Sciver is his hat, but Comicsgate, go for it.
Eric Van Tenkar.
Van Tenkar, Sciver, July, August. Yeah, I don't know. Guys with E's for their first name. They're the dudes to listen to. And this guy.
EVS. There you go.
Abe El Taib. I think there's an I in there. Yeah, he's really cool, actually. And he had mentioned how they kind of are pretty racist with the way they're always saving the persons of color with white people. So, anyway.
Because all these folks, they need a leg up. Apparently, they're not good enough on their own. Anyway, so
next,
DC Comics days are numbered.
I think so.
In a way, I don't know that they're going to get sold off. I just think there might be they're numbered as a major comic book player.
Well,
in the future, unless they change their creative direction, they're probably just going to get referred to in nostalgic.
The comment was mentioned. The comment was made in the article that Warner Brothers, Warner Media is building a brand new office. And they said, well, and they're probably not sure yet if they're taking DC with them. So, I mean, it may be that, here's what I would imagine when it's really at its lowest, you'll hear of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern, and those guys. They'll just have, some kind of graphic novelty or reprints of the old stuff because the old stuff's what's selling. So,
yeah. And during the pandemic, one or both of the big boys, Marvel, DC, they had a lot of layoffs.
Yeah.
And the folks were told to keep it hush hush.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it was an NDA specifically, but it was basically they went to when folks had to stay home.
Yeah.
They had some I don't know if maybe layoffs isn't the right terminology. It might be that they just didn't give them work.
Yeah.
Because they weren't putting comics out, new stuff. It had to do with the pandemic, and a lot of them, from what I understand, felt bad about not having work, and were telling their followers, if they had any on social media, to help. They were GoFundMe's and stuff like that because and if that's all the only work you got, then I can understand being strapped for cash.
Yeah, Ethan Van Sciver, his I think it's Comic Artist Pro is his YouTube channel. If you listen to the last couple, he goes into that about some guys that got screwed, even though they were good team players, and DC not giving them work. And yeah, it's a whole thing. But yeah, I know you gave me the next article.
Yes, this is awesome.
Now, this is funny. This is hilarious.
So I'm going to, so that everybody can join us.
Yes, this is
in the hellscape.
This is awesomely fun.
In which we currently reside. Let me share this.
This is dumb on so many levels. I will not ruin it. I'll let you enjoy
it. For those of you who are listening and not watching, Wizards of the Coast with WizKids has a new line of dragons coming out in June. And as everyone, because you will never be allowed to not know this, June is Pride Month.
Oh, please.
So WizKids is releasing a Pride of fairy dragons. And, you know, fairies.
I can't get over it.
Pride Month. Fairies.
Is that something you call? Do they?
When I first saw this article, I told Randy, and I shared it with him, and I said, if Randy and I, as a joke, in June said Pride of Fairy Dragons,
we would have been,
and it was a joke. You know, we would get called homophobes and all kinds of other istophobe crap, but WizKids unironically releases a bunch of fairies.
Okay, Darth.
In Pride Month. And they're not even good. Okay, these are digital renderings, I'm sure.
That I made to you. I think you're saying that is shitty even for a fairy dragon. Joe's told me they're probably all mock-ups. If you go to that page and look at them, they all suck like that one. They're bad.
It looks like a digital mock-up, but it may look like that because I'm sure
no. They're horrible.
I wonder if they're 3D printing over at WizKids. I don't know.
WizKids makes good miniatures. I'm not knocking them, but if that's what they did, this is like.
The reason I bring up 3D printing is when you can have a digital image look really a lot like its printed counterpart, whereas sometimes before we were in the 3D printed era, when you have a digital mock-up, there would often be many differences in the final form. So I'm not sure how this is going to translate, but this just looks, it looks like Cartoonville. It's a cartoon. And you know, it's a fantasy world. It's not real. So calling a cartoon might not be a bad enough descriptor of how awful this looks. I mean, you can find a fairy dragon imagery from Wizards of the Coast and before, TSR, all that, and they're all better than this.
Dude, I have a really neat fairy dragon. It's from It's from the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, basically Undermountain for 5th edition. It's a enlarged, and it was made. It looks like you've seen it, Joe. It's a large purple one, which is one of the older ones, at least according to old lore. Purple fairy dragons were the oldest and toughest. And what happens in one? I'm spoilers here, guys. So plug your ears. In the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and I remember this. This was a module in second too. When the players go to this level, they get shrunk down. So the fairy dragon is literally dragon size, and it's pretty cool. So,
and they're releasing one dragon for each color in the rainbow. Well, there's 6, I think, 5 or 6.
Okay. Whatever.
Right. And fairy dragons, I don't know about the 5th edition version.
Right.
But fairy dragons in most of your other editions of the game, they changed color with their age category, like you were mentioning, purple.
Yes.
They didn't stay a color their entire life, and the blue is a different size. So all of these, I bet, are the same size. So they probably even got that part wrong.
Well, they'll go back and change the books, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Probably even retroactively edit second edition on drive-through and first edition if it says otherwise. Oh, Shadow and Sun does not have a nice thing to say about 3D minis, Joe. 3D printed minis are overrated. Joe has disappeared on us. Drop them and they shatter if they don't melt in your hands from body heat. Oh, is that true? I'm not a painter guy, but I do buy painted. Uh-oh, sounds like Joe may have fell over. He's an old man, so he may need some help. That's interesting about the minis, though, Shadow and Sun. I did not know that. You okay, bud?
Yeah, I'm having some technical issues here.
Okay.
My wife dropped off some water.
Uh-oh.
And I had to reach for them. And my headphone, my earphone came out, dropped in my lap. I hit it with my hand because, I lost my balance just sitting here.
Yeah.
And popped off the little plastic deal that is on the tip so that it goes into your ear and stays there.
Okay.
So now it's on the floor.
You can't find it?
And I don't see it. No, my wife just apologized.
Oh.
It's not your fault. I did it because I'm stupid. So, no, I'm good, babe.
So, Shadzar, I hear WizKids wanted to name the Black Fairy RuPaul, but was denied the rights to the name. I hope you're joking, but that is hilarious.
I'm sure it's a joke.
Bruce is in the house, and he's got a comment for you. Nipple clamps needed. Someone get the car battery. Joe sounds like he's having issues.
Yeah. Okay. I'm back.
All right. He's back.
So I'm pretty sure I have these little earpieces, some extra ones running around. You can replace them, but I'm not going to do it right now.
Dude, our boys are on fire today. My gaming, Shadow and Sun, my gaming group would literally kill me and burn my books if I threw big gay dragons at them.
I mean, fairy dragons always had a rainbow element to them because they, as they aged, they changed colors. Their scales weren't necessarily all of one color, but they had a predominant one.
Yeah.
So having them be one color like that is inaccurate. It was, they're scaly, and their scales are all different colors, but they have a predominant one depending on their age category.
Sure.
Purple being the one for the oldest. And this is just so much less interesting than a more complex coloring, but it's a figure. It's a miniature figure, so they probably are limited in that aspect to some degree. But having a more complex coloring with a particular one being predominant would be more accurate to the lore. But who knows?
Purple being the gayest. Look, here's the deal. Thanks, Shadow Sun. In the end, if they're going to get away with Pride of Fairy Dragons for June month of, what is it, Juneteenth, whatever it is.
It's Pride Month.
I'm kind of done with them complaining about homophobic slurs. Shut up. You don't care about that. You just care who says it. It's the same thing. Like, I don't know if anybody into sports. I listen to Jason Whitlock, Fearless podcast. It's mostly political, but it's got a lot of sports feel to it. It is awesome. Anybody that likes to hear some actually intelligent discussions, that's a good one to go to. Just like the N-word for black folks. Look, if it's a bad word, don't use it. Don't use it and then say we can't just because I'm white. Not that I want to. I do. I agree. I don't think it's a good word to use for anybody. But don't act like you're just, it's a term of endearment. Whatever. It's okay for me to say fairy, Pride of Fairy Dragons. Whatever.
Right. I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
So to me, this is just one more in a continuing string of bad design decisions. I don't know. This is WizKids, but because they're not doing this without the express blessing of Wizards of the Coast, guaranteed.
Oh, they can't. No, they can't even make fairy dragons that way. Yeah. But on to another topic. Oh, I use all the words. Effing greenskins. Okay, Bruce. Yeah, truth.
I was well trained as a child to not use the N-word.
I'm working hard, and the N-word is not an issue for me.
It's not in my lexicon.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't fault other people.
No, but honestly, I've gotten rid of that pretty much, and I would say it jokingly sometimes, ending with A. But even Jason Whitlock has changed my mind completely. I try not to do that either because I do think it's a put down. For my opinion, I'm not going to chastise someone else like Joe said, but especially with Pride of Fairy Dragons, come on, it's ridiculous. So anyway, part of one of our sub topics, yeah, truth, Shadow and Sun. That's truth. I agree. I mean, I agree.
Sticks and stones.
Yeah. Joe was we'll talk a little bit about gaming on the cheap today, but he found this sweet deal on let me see, how do I want to share my screen here. Oh, you want to do it?
Yeah,
you do it. I'm
already going.
You're more efficient. So show them this sweet deal you can get for some kobolds. The first one is official WizKids, I believe.
Yeah, this is WizKids again.
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right. Now, this is, let's see. Let me do this. No, that's how they have it.
Yeah.
Well, this is a set. They've got to have a better. Oh, no. Here we go. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kobold.
Mm-hmm.
There's five of them in the set.
Yep.
It looks okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Good detail.
Yeah. It's in pre-order status.
Right.
But apparently it's $52 for 5.
Unpainted. Got to put together.
Kobold. This is how they come.
Yeah. Good Lord.
Unassembled on sprues. So you have to, for $52, you get 5 figures. Now, what they say is they have multiple parts so that you can customize them. And then you're going to have leftover parts after you're done. If you haven't, kind of destroyed your figure a little bit, getting it together. I mean, the folks out there who do this a lot, like Bruce, could probably whip it up and it'd be fine. But someone like me, I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes. This is not for me. And I think it's still, for getting them in sprues and having to assemble them yourself, I think 5 plastic figures for $52 is probably too much.
Bruce was right here. If you're into painting minis, you can't go wrong with the Kickstarters that the Reapers do, the bones and stuff. You will get a bargain beyond belief. So, yeah, Patrick, he's our resident painter. This boy loves to paint, and he can do it like a crazy man. Yeah, no way. And then show him the other one, Joe, that you found on was it on eBay?
Yes, eBay.
So he found some kobolds real quick, no effort, I'm sure. It took Joe about 3 seconds. So,
yeah. Well, somebody else did.
Probably will take him longer than it is less than time than it took him to do it right now to actually click it over.
Let's see.
Taking a break from packing Indigo? You moving, buddy? Where are you going? You coming to the Great White North up here in Michigan? You want a game with us? I know you do. We have a seat. We'll make a seat for you, brother. You're welcome. So
for what?
Indigo Dragon's moving. He said, well, he's packing, so he might be moving. But oh yeah, look at this.
6 kobolds
one extra
for $5. Buy it now. So that's not like a bid. This is right. eBay, and you can buy stuff at cost. And then of course there's $3.50 shipping. So for $8.50, you can have 6 kobolds that are already assembled. All you need to do is prime and paint.
Now the detail's probably not as good, but dang it.
And let's see. No, these are Reaper bones, so you don't even necessarily need to prime. You don't even necessarily need to prime.
They're going to be good.
Yeah.
Oh,
let's see. I can't get a better picture out of it.
Well, that's fine. Fine. They can look it up.
Let me see if I can zoom.
I'm going to zoom it. Yeah. Not as detailed as those ones, I don't think, but Reaper, I'm telling you, Reapers is fine.
Yeah. And another one that I found.
Patrick has those.
Oh, cool.
Patrick's 4 or 5. He backed 4 or 5 times the Reaper bones. I did one. He has most of mine too.
There was one that I didn't have time to put it in to get it out to you.
Yeah.
But Otherworld Miniatures is another source for miniatures. It's supposed to be good as far as good deals, but they're metal miniatures.
Look at that. Indigo. No, not going to the north, just across town down here in Arizona. You can keep your cold. You can keep your crazy heat and scorpions, dude. I've been to Arizona a time or two. It's nice in the winter, but I'll pass in the summer. That's crazy sauce.
It's dry heat.
It's a dry heat. It's still 120, and don't touch your car. It'll burn your hand off. But yeah, that's cool.
Make sure to hydrate.
I understand. Each their own. I don't mind putting on layers, but I can only get naked, and then I'm done as far as I can get. So
in the show notes, I'm going to change things up a little bit for you guys. So there's some really long links.
Are they? Okay.
I tried to the eBay link has so many, it's filtered and everything, so it's a mess. So I'll put a short link in there in the show notes so that it's easy to follow.
Okay.
So yeah, so I don't know what WizKids thinks they're doing, but there are much cheaper and very serviceable options out there.
Yeah.
Oh, Indigo Dragon. It only took me 4 years to acclimate down here after living in Oregon for over 20 years. Only 4.
Oregon's nice. I just posted there. I have family there. I've been there multiple times. I was over on the coast side of the state. It's got a lot of variety, but yeah.
Don't ever want to live in Oregon.
No
state that contains Portland is on my list to move to.
Washington State's no better, and California's a joke. That's all right.
Yeah.
Arizona hopefully can hold out and defend against the insanity.
Be at least a little decent.
Yeah.
If my wife could deal with the heat, it would be Florida or Russia. No, there's other reasons to not go to Florida. But
there's
Texas.
There's a job in Tennessee right now that I have to admit I'm probably going to apply for. Can't imagine I'll take it because I've been doing some looking. They won't pay me what I would want. But those three areas, Tennessee being more because of family, but hey, Legion is in. But Florida and Texas, yeah, I don't blame you.
Hey, Legion, you missed some fun, but you can get back to it on the replay. Gay Dragons, just a teaser. Just a teaser. All right. Moving along to one of my favorite places to read articles at.
Yes.
Geek Native, because they are just full of long, in-depth articles written well without any bias.
Right, not biased one bit.
No.
Are you trying to find it?
No, I've got it. I'm just going to share. Share.
Don't know if Max will like this. He has to
share. They've talked about this over on Legion of Myth.
Okay.
So apparently, Wizards of the Coast is reviving Dragonlance for 5th edition because everybody was just clamoring for that.
All 5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's playtest. I was wondering if the playtest document was available. I missed it. This being clickable. Oops.
Yeah.
Let me back up. I'm going to go back to the article.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just in a new tab. All right. So, Wizards of the Coast is revamping Dragonlance. I'm sure that the lore will be untouched. It will just be previous lore with the backing of the 5e engine and nothing else. I'm sure that's the way it's going to go, right? Right. There are no certainties here, as it is only a play test. But the Heroes of Krynn is the strongest clue that Dragonlance 5e is on the way. Let's see. It's only a 6-page playtest. It can't be that bad. No. Well, it probably is because
Did you read
in Legion of Myths, I saw a blurb. I didn't watch it yet or listen to it. But Max referred to his partner, Heathen Dog. Yeah. So angry that he left the stream and didn't come back.
Was it
during the live stream?
Oh my! Was it the Kinder part that worked? Because that kind of, I don't know why it annoyed me, but it did. It just, the new Kinder rule. Kinders don't steal. Their purses get magically filled up, and no one knows why. Did you read that?
It's so dumb. And then Knights of Solamnia is a background, not a class.
Oh, well.
It's a background that anybody can take.
Huh?
So you could be a Knight of Solamnia wizard. Yeah.
Or a Knight of Solamnia rogue.
Perhaps.
Oh my goodness.
Knight of Solamnia background.
In 5e, that is now 5e. That's stupid. Yeah.
I mean, I was more a fan of the setting and than the books. I didn't really think the books were very well written, but that's just personal taste. But I thought that the setting was fine, and some of the interesting bits about Kryn, the setting Kryn, were the Towers of High Sorcery.
Yep.
Those were cool.
Different types of knights.
Yeah, and as long as you're staying on Kryn, playing a Minotaur is interesting, and some of the other races that they have there. As long as you stay in Kryn, and Kryn is, according to their lore, is fairly disconnected from the rest of whatever multiverse might be out there. I can't remember exactly how that works. Whether it's kind of decreed by the Kryn pantheon, or by just the nature of the space that Kryn occupies within the fabric of the multiverse, but they are cut off. You don't play a Kryn Wizard of High Sorcery, say in Greyhawk. One, it would be stupid because you don't have access to the moons, and the moons are what give the wizards their varying powers. They're wizards, so they don't have special abilities, I don't think, other than their spell casting. So I just think it's dumb.
Check some of this out. It says it's a new moon tonight, but I identify with the full moon, so I get full moon powers. They're giving that was Max at Legion, and then Darth says they gave moon-based spell casting to the sorcerer. That's weird.
There shouldn't be any sorcerers on Kryn. There should just be wizards.
Well, in the 3rd edition, they did add sorcerers, but I think they were considered rogue wizards.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And they were hunted down by the wizards.
They were hunted.
Sorcery.
Which, that's what you do. That's what you do with sorcerers.
Yeah. I mentioned in the chat I was kind of ambivalent about Kryn until this came up. I played a little bit, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite thing. Yep, that's true, Shadzar. The gods of Kryn shrouded it until Spelljammer found a Kinder leading on a small jammer, and Planescape had them over Sigil. Yeah, I actually ran an adventure at Gen Con where I had Raceland open up. He ended up keeping the gods out. I had took my own twist on it, and I was running a Planescape game, so Max would love that. And I had him basically open up Kryn for a moment so these adventurers could come in, and he knew they were coming, and he let them into Kryn for a bit, opened a portal to do something for him that he could not do, or at least he wanted them to do it. And it was a pretty fun adventure, pretty high level too. So,
but that doesn't have any context if most of the time it's sealed. Yeah. So when Kryn is mostly sealed, most of the time, almost all the time sealed, shrouded by the gods, having Raceland be able to pierce that has some meaning. But if Kryn isn't separated, then who cares? You let us come in, we can do a plane shift.
This is what it is. Max says, Legion of Myth. Wizards of High Sorcery has evolved. They're now called Mages of High Sorcery and include bards. Oh my God. What a pile of stupid.
Okay, right. Faux Kryn.
What is this? Okay. Oh, so Randy had Uncle Fisty Fist Kryn, just like WoTC. It was one adventure, dude.
Relax your crack, Foghorn.
It's okay, man. I fixed it all back when it was over. I actually had a TPK.
Having
which was what it is. So
having exceptions to stuff like that is fine.
it's good, but it can't be the norm.
As long as it's exceptions, you do it once. You have like a one-shot deal.
And
that's fine.
And technically, it's my crin, so I can do whatever I want to on my crin.
Right.
It wasn't published.
Right.
But I understand.
So,
yeah. A DM should not abuse Fist and Danless. I agree. I did not abuse him. In fact, in that adventure, he utterly abused the characters. They were kind of stupid. The players were dumb, and he killed them all. It was awesome. I tried.
Oh, was that the one with the guy and the stone skin? The stone skin guy?
Yeah. It's a long story. Yeah, but yeah, he tried something dumb. But they were real chatty about it. One guy just wouldn't shut up about something and force my hand, even though I tried multiple times. They ended up fighting Raceland. And I was like, that's not the point. So I kicked their butt. One dude, most of the table was cool with it. But the guy that started it thought I was cheating him. And everybody at the table, this one guy was a big Kryn fan. He said, dude, that's totally what Raceland would have done. He was laughing about halfway through the TPK. He goes, we're totally getting our ass kicked by Raceland. This is awesome. So we had a good time. Yeah. We had a good time despite of the crybabies. That were
right.
Well, I had one whiner.
You ready to move on?
Oh yeah, let's do it, man. Wow, it's already 8:30. We are gonna have a good one here. Main topic.
It's 8:06.
What?
Oh no, 8:30. We started at 7:30.
It feels like 7 o'clock because it's so much fun. We got great folks here, and
we turned back time, like Cher.
So we're basically like Cher, which is a weird way connects us back to the fairy dragons.
Somehow.
Don't fairy dragons like Cher? Hey, they can shut up. They've already opened up the door. I don't care. Yeah. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about something that I know the guys on the podcast, it was either not the previous episode that Patrick covered for me, which thank you, Patrick. I said it before, but I want to thank you again for being here. But the time before is, are there any default DnD assumptions? And so,
yes.
So what is DnD, right? So when we sit down to play DnD, as a DM and as a player, what are the assumptions, right?
Oh, okay. There are some based on the rules.
Yep.
So you can extrapolate some assumptions depending on what your meaning is by the assumptions.
And I want to cover several things. So in general, let's talk about things like characters. If I'm coming to a new table of D&D, it doesn't mean it's going to be this. I mean, my assumption can be blown out of the water. But I would imagine most D&D players that sit down to play at a new table would have certain assumptions about what characters would be available.
Right. Yes. If you hadn't already let that cat out of the bag yet, if you just said, we're playing D&D, and you say what edition, and you guys sit down at the table, everybody who's familiar with the game should have some assumptions on what races are available. Yes.
Okay. I just had to respond to Patrick. Anyway, so when they sit down, if you didn't know me, Joe, and I was like, new D&D game, hey, bud, why don't you come play D&D with us? Just me saying D&D, what would you expect at a minimum would be your options for characters when you sit down? Or would you have any basic assumptions when you roll?
Oh, I would make all kinds of assumptions because unless we are allowing the player's handbook, player's handbook races and classes, if I sat down and said, okay, take your player's handbook and throw it in the garbage can, we're doing something different. I'm saying we're probably not playing D&D then, right?
Right.
Okay, so D&D carries with it some things. And if we're talking about the gameplay, if we're talking about not your personal house rules.
Right, no.
Right, none of that. Then it's classes, levels, races, right? Those three things, alignment. And then you have D&D's familiar dice conventions, which is D20 with mods, and depending on which version, it's you count low armor class is low, low is good with armor class, and early editions armor class is high, is good in later editions. So there are some pretty familiar assumptions, pretty familiar D&D things. And those are, you have armor class, you have saving throws, all of that stuff.
But Max I guess maybe you hit the big broad one. I was thinking particularly with, what kind of characters. He said fighter, cleric, wizard, thief. I agree.
Yeah.
Anything else would depend on, and Darth Dick mentioned books. Others mentioned, hey, what are the things what books are we using? You said that too. But I would think, several other folks said fighter, wizard, cleric, thief. I think
the only assumptions I would make would be player's handbook, unless you said something different.
Right. Hey, I play D&D, and so I didn't get a chance to tell you anything. Because back in the day, I don't remember much about Session 0 crap. In fact, I don't remember anything about it. It wasn't a thing. And if I had a new guy to play D&D, all I would tell them, hey, we play D&D. He'd be like, cool, I want to try, or I already play. Can I join? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, if I like the dude. And he joins. I wouldn't tell him about my campaign. He wouldn't know about what my house rules are.
You learn all that through play.
Right. And he would show up, and he would probably expect I should be able to play a fighter, a wizard, cleric, and a thief. Assume the player's handbook, which would also mean then all the races, right? That would be standard: the halfling, the human, the elf, the dwarf, and maybe the half elf, depending on what version you're playing.
Gnome.
And maybe the half orc and gnome. Sure, it's possible.
That would be pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think that from OD&D all the way, I know there's some differences. Don't come at me with, there were no half elves and there were no this and that. I get it. There were no thieves in original D&D, but I think it blends well enough that I think most people would say that's the composition of your characters, right? That's what you would. Yeah. That's the only thing you think. So D&D has that assumption.
Sure thing.
Alignments would be a thing, as you said, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think most people, would you say that it would be the 9 alignment system? Does that feel like it's something more?
That's the default.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the default from AD&D.
Correct.
Previously, it was just the 3.
I have a question, Joe. Would you have to? Max made a funny comment. We had Session 0 back in the day. We called it "Come over and make characters," and I'll tell you about I've kind of done that too.
Yeah, true. You learned about idiosyncrasies or differences at the table, and you may not, depending on how long you had played, you may not even notice them.
Yeah. Patrick said, for whatever reason, the monk doesn't truly figure into the D&D expectations to me. Neither does a sorcerer. Well, the sorcerer didn't show up till 3E. And I'm with you. And even in 1E, the monk me and Joe both were like, I know Joe liked the idea of a Kung Fu dude, but we were both like, he doesn't really seem to fit here. And for a while, I didn't allow him.
I think it's fine to have a more like a hand-to-hand type fighting character in a fantasy game, but they tried to hold on too tightly to the Asian tropes.
Yeah.
While at the same time being medieval Europe in tone. So it felt off.
Before I use Indio Dragons for a jumping off point, his comment, Shadow and Sun said, I've had a lot of good monk players. I agree. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying the monk never seemed to be core D&D to me. It doesn't mean I didn't eventually allow them. For a long time, I'd let players, whatever the heck was in the book, I didn't give a crap. But after
nervous drinking here, if anybody gets the reference.
Nervous drinking. Oh, yeah. Eric July, not Ethan Van July. Indigo Dragon, though, and I would say he makes comment 4, he gets rid of the fighter, wizard, cleric, thief, necessity. Sure. It's viable. I actually think everything, any combination's viable. I've never felt like, we don't have a cleric, we can't play. It just means you better be a little more careful if you don't have a cleric.
That might be an assumption. The assumption of needing to fill all the roles.
There you go.
It's not every time. It's very common for when you're sitting down making characters as a group, what do we have? And if, the basic bases aren't covered, a spellcaster, an arcane spellcaster, a thief of some kind, a fighter of some kind, and a divine healing type of some kind, someone will say, well, we need a whatever happens to be lacking. And I understand that, because especially in the typical AD&D game, if you do not have a cleric casting, they're able to cast healing spells. It'll be more challenging, and you'll have to rethink how you do things. You'll have to be perhaps more cautious and take more in game world breaks. Sven got stabbed through the head with a sword. We need to go back to town.
Yeah.
Put a Band-Aid on him.
Yeah, and Shadow and Sun, he goes, always hinted to his players that a cleric was a good idea. I remember the day it was like, who's going to be the cleric? And sometimes that was not a fun debate to have. People didn't want to, for some reason, they didn't want to play them. They were never weak. And people I knew never wanted to play clerics. But yeah, I think that would be an assumption that we're going to have one of each type to cover all the niches. And yeah.
If the DM is willing to roll with whatever the players bring and isn't trying to
highlight their weakness.
Well, it's more like the DM might have a predetermined set of things for the characters to do, all predetermined on some level. And maybe he's making assumptions that all bases are covered, whatever that might mean, in the composition of the encounters he's providing in advance. Then if that's the case, the DM might need to help people with their assumptions, because when I sit down to make a character, I don't care what the DM does.
Right.
So if I might want to play a wizard or a fighter or cleric or whatever, a paladin, and don't care what that fellow across the screen's doing. This is what I'm doing. And hopefully what we can do is, let's say I pick paladin when most of the time I play wizard, and then there's no wizard in the party, which can happen. Either the DM says, "Oh, you might need a spellcaster in your group," and we're like, "Well, we don't have one. Let's roll with it. See what happens."
That's definitely where I'm at now. And I don't think as a DM, I don't think I have to adjust the encounters. I think part of the onus, and what you're saying, part of the onus could just be on the players
to be clever.
Be clever, and what's to get good, right? Just get good. Or maybe some things you can't do. Maybe if you had the thief, you could break into the local bakery and steal whatever you needed to steal, but you don't want to call the guard down. So that's how I lean. But back to expectations as far as assumptions, I think we would assume we'd have the big four. Now, if we move on, because I want to get to if you look at, say, 3rd edition, would that change your expectations? Would you then have 11 classes that you would expect to be able to play from the
Well, if the edition is laid out in advance, then I would always assume player's handbook. So whatever's in the player's handbook is what I'll assume. If for some reason I wanted to play something outside of the player's handbook, I would ask, but I would not assume that it was okay. Okay. Especially if with the DM, let's say it's the first time I've played under this particular DM. Knowing you, I still would say, "Hey, I would like to play blah blah blah. What do you think?" Unless I know you're okay with it in advance, and most of it, since we've played enough 3rd edition, I would know probably what to steer clear of, like androids and anything futuristic and all that. So, something I failed to mention this at the beginning of our stream, that we are also streaming on Twitch. I probably should have said something.
We probably should have. And I think we want them to do something now that they're on here. We want to make sure that they do what? Don't we want them to subscribe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Before we go too much deeper into this, subscribe. Thanks, Max, for this.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So what about leveling up and getting better? So you would expect player's handbook. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to whatever levels in the book. Not expecting anything more, anything less. Are we going to start at level 1? And again, I want you to be from
Start level 1.
Yeah. So
That's the assumption,
you're
because
invited-
that's where the game says to start.
Mhm.
So unless the DM says, what? Yes, we are. I just said it. What are you going to do about it? I'm in Michigan. You're in wherever you are, which is not Michigan. So I dare you to try to do something about it. Legion of Myth. So yeah, according to Legion of Myth,
I listen to Max when he's talking, Joe. I know
Alabama.
Oh, you're doxing Max, dude.
He's doxed himself as far as his state. I mean, I don't know his street address, but yeah.
If I find out, we're telling everybody.
I don't know. I know. I'm. It's a joke I'm not getting, Max, about Twitch's terms of service. So, which will mean if you explain it, it won't be funny anymore. But
oh, that's right. He's from Bama Stan.
Alabama. Yeah, he's currently living there, not from.
No, he's from Minnesota.
Minnesota.
He does that well, probably because he's from there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yes, first level. You start at first level in Dungeons and Dragons,
right.
unless otherwise stated by the DM.
So we would say level 1.
You assume, yes, level 1.
Unless you're invited, hey, we're in a 9th level campaign, especially in 3rd edition, we could say 15-point build, 9th level characters, do this, build this guy. But back in the older D&Ds, there was probably not too much of that, because how would you even decide what kind of gear they have? But that leads to the next question. What kind of gear are the assumptions?
Well, that's all okay.
I get your default can always be player champion, but let me forget the standard
minimum. I would say, since we're starting at first level as an assumption, you start with almost nothing.
You're not a magic sword given to you by your father.
No. Do not assume that.
Correct. What about types of adventures? You sit down. What do you expect to happen when Randy says, I'm invited to his D&D game?
Okay. If I'm sitting down with Randy, I'm going to expect one thing, which is going to be a variety of different locales.
Yeah.
I think primarily outdoors.
Yeah.
Is what you prefer.
I do more of that than dungeon crawling. Yeah.
Yeah. Some dungeon crawling, but it's not necessarily dungeons. It's going to be caverns and more naturally occurring things.
Yeah, but I'm saying
the occasional indoors locations. Right.
No, but I'm not saying about, me. Imagine you don't. Your first time you're going to play with Randy. You don't know this guy. You would expect a dungeon. Would that be the standard expectation?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go into a dungeon.
Sure. Dungeons and Dragons. So you're going to assume some dungeons, if not the predominant setting for your adventuring to occur in, especially with AD&D. Yeah. Old school dungeons. That's just what it was.
Yeah. Oh, Darthix onto something. This is true. I did this in starting higher level 2nd edition and 1st edition, more 2nd edition. Starting funds with magic assigned by the DM. These funds cover everything, including my strongholds. So if you're playing higher level, you may, I think, especially in 2nd edition, if I was starting a higher level game, I wouldn't just let the players pick a handful of magic items. I would pick them.
No.
I would actually pick them for them.
That would be, so if the DM says we're starting at X level, the assumption then would be, what do we get? And that would come from the DM, not just me picking whatever.
Joe's question would be, what spells does my 9th level wizard get? Yeah.
And then you would say the minimum.
The minimum, and subtract 4 because you dared to ask me about a wizard being good.
Right. Yeah. And if you really think you should have 5th level spells as the 9th level spellcaster, you got another thing coming.
Yeah.
Those would be your words.
Right. I don't care what it says in the book. You can cast 2nd level spells and that's it. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
You'll be fine. Now, there's still your 9th level wizard. Those 2nd level spells will be boss. Right?
Yeah, they will. 5d4.
A lot of them.
5d4 plus 5 magic missile. Here you go. Iron Golem. Roll initiative. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
What about treasure expectations? That's kind of connected. So what do you think would be the standard assumption? A boatload of magic and money? Just money falling out your ears? moderate amount. I feel like I would expect kind of a high amount. If I'm playing D&D, I expect the rewards to be kind of plentiful. From a not knowing anything about your campaign, I would kind of expect that because of the way the game's written.
So for treasure gained during adventures, is that what you're saying?
No, yeah, right. So as a player, okay, we're going to go on these adventures. We're going to go into dungeons. And as a player,
I expect there to be treasure.
yes.
And I expect the risk that you're taking in the adventure to have commensurate rewards. Right?
Yes.
So not necessarily, I don't expect there to be a plus 5 Holy Avenger underneath every rock. But if if the adventure is to find, confront, and defeat a dragon, I mean, this isn't first level, but this is just for example.
Right.
The characters have advanced and they're now confronting a dragon and are fighting that dragon in its lair, kill it, and it has a horde. You expect, I mean, the expectation of a dragon is there is a horde.
Yes.
Now, there might be additional steps you might take to secure that horde. It might be guarded by other things. There might be, it might have spells cast on it. Who knows? But you expect there to be one, and you expect it to be nice depending on the size of the dragon and age.
Yeah. Whereas if you just fight a few orcs, even if you fight, what if you fought the orc champion and a whole tribe of orcs, you still wouldn't expect dragon level treasure.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Lucky to find a few gold. You're probably finding silver and copper and some crappy equipment. That's probably, I wouldn't expect any more than that from some orcs, unless depending on the size of the group.
Yes.
And what happened, let's say if we just, turn the corner and there's a horde of orcs there, you have no idea what they might have. But if you are chasing down this band of orcs that belong to a larger group and they've been marauding the countryside for months and you finally track them down, you might expect there to be some things there because they've been marauding. So if that would all depend. These kinds of assumptions have to depend on the situation. But at the same time, the Dungeon Master's Guide, depending on which version of D&D we're talking, or the Monster Manual, will show a standard amount for certain monsters, orcs included, and then depending on the size of the group, the treasure will be more. If it's a big group.
So in AD&D, if you're like some players, you memorize the monster manual, the treasure types for every creature. You expect, a pit fiend will have type X, R, and Z, and will have 10 times that. And I expect 4.7 magic items. Not quite
right. Or if you're just a player and you've played long enough, you expect certain monsters to have more than others, even of the same power level, because of their nature, like purple worm.
Yeah, what are they going to have?
You might find something in their gut. That's about it.
They're not hanging around, and their lair might have, they might poop around one of their chambers around their lair, and you might find the remains of some medium to high level adventurer inside and get a sweet little grab every now and then. But a lot of times you're going to kill a purple worm and get zip.
Except its body.
Correct.
Which might be worth stuff if you can chop it up and.
Which I think is a good way to do it. If the purple worm is a challenge for the group, you probably want to give them a little reward if they're facing something deadly.
And you never know. A purple worm, that might be good eating.
It might be.
I don't know.
From the DM's perspective, I guess for me, I think that's a good. I like that the players. I like what you're saying, and from our commenters that they're looking at the book for the guide, because I can tell them how I deviate once we get there. What about? Do you have any world expectations? I mean, I guess if the DM were to say, because I don't want to talk about Kryn in particular or Forgotten Realms, but again, you don't know, Randy. Hey, I have my own. And you say, what world do you play in? And I say, I have my own campaign world. Do you still have some expectations, or what expectations would you have of that world? What does Max say?
Max says purple worm makes your pee smell like grapes.
Well, that's awesome. We need to eat some purple worm.
Well, that doesn't mean it tastes good.
Oh, true. It might taste like crap. But
yeah.
Who doesn't want their pee to smell like grapes, though? That'd be pretty cool. Pretty sweet.
It would be. It would be.
So, would you have expectations, or any expectations you would have of a world? So, when I'm playing my world, I could be crazy DM and have all kinds of crazy rules. But what do you think most players would expect when they roll in about the world and its design and the campaign?
I think that most expectations will revolve around a pseudo medieval type setup.
Yep.
That might lean more towards swords and sorcery, a la Conan or John Carter type of maybe wilderness with a few settlements of decadence. But I think most
Kinder in every pot, sweet cow.
Okay. I wonder what Kinder tastes like. The other white meat.
Right.
So I never, as far as the world goes, never thought about expectations or assumptions about the world, except that it supported the gameplay that we had. Like there were wizards there, and there may be other wizards. There might be wizard schools. There were clerics, so there's probably some temples. There's fighters, so you have blacksmiths and you have castles. Even though if you think too hard about a lot of medieval technology, say castles, and you look at the monster manual and you see all these flying, burrowing, wall bypassing monsters, you're like, well, our castle's all that useful. But the expectation for them to be there probably should still be in most people's minds, because that's the default of D&D anyway. You play enough modules, there's castles all over the place, people wearing armor, and there's swords, and then they're surrounded by monsters that can get past all this crap. So the both exist at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think you don't worry about that too much.
No.
And what you can do is you make an interesting, perhaps, or you don't even really care. You just play. But if you really want to think about it, you could make a story about why those things coexist. If you want.
Yeah. Shadow and Sun says, I would expect low reward, high threat. No offense, but most dungeon masters were stingy, fearful, sadistic time killers. I think I might have been. That is not unfair. I don't think I was a time killer. I don't think I killed time. I don't know what that means.
Not that part. No.
I was fair enough. I was probably moderately fearful of characters being too powerful. I did go.
I think time killer probably refers to having some traps that take forever to try to figure out. Which that wasn't you. There were traps, but it was usually stingy.
Still me. Yeah.
Having encounters that when you when you believed.
Yes.
That you had given too much out, which means a +1 sword at 10th level.
There are two +1 items.
When we were younger players, you would have encounters that would suck the magic items out.
King of the Wind Elementals?
That's one.
Yeah. You love that room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now Shadow and Sun, you're actually wrong. You're looking at one. No offense, but I have yet to meet a good dungeon master. I'm not bragging, dude. I'm pretty good. And I think we'd have a damn good time if we played together.
Present company not included.
Oh, okay. We'd have a ball, dude. Hey, anybody going to VentureCon? You need to go. We need people there. I'm going to run. I've changed my mind. I'm running Old School Essentials, and I'm running a game that I've titled Creeps on the Borderlands.
That's awesome.
I'll just let you think about it. I got some really good ideas. So, but I would love to meet some of these folks. But I know it's probably far away. I know Indigo's in Arizona, and who knows where those are at. But it would be cool if they can make it. And Max is in Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah. Okay. What about the OSR?
Who cares?
Next topic. I'm with you. OSR.
No offense. It was too easy. It was too easy.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe I'm not ready for that question yet. Let me back up one more second. So is D&D then generic fantasy? Is that what it is? Because we're talking kind of like that. But maybe not. Maybe because D&D made its own fantasy. I don't know if it is generic fantasy. it's its own kind of fantasy.
Yes, it's its own. It's it's somewhat generic because I believe it's generic from just the perspective of the three main books.
Right.
There are some setting assumptions in there, but they're not many. There's just a few. It's a light touch. I wouldn't call it completely generic, but it is, I would say, mostly generic. Generic with a little bit of special sauce.
Yeah, because it's got its own thing. It's got clerics. It's not a true. It's not a true. It's not
Generic would be, I mean, fighter is generic.
Yeah.
Magic user is generic, but then you say cleric,
What is that even?
and then
D&D kind of makes. I mean, yeah.
Thief is. I would say thief is not generic. They are
No,
very
I
specific.
think rogue is generic. I think thief is a specific thing. Cleric,
Paladin,
Paladin's a fightery holy guy, but is that also
ranger,
is that also
druid.
Druids, yeah. You get down those rabbit holes. So it has its own things, but it's got a lot of I would say quasi medieval fantasy where most people don't worry about why castles are around, even though they probably would get destroyed. We talked about that before. And there's dungeons and tons of them, even though that's kind of nonsensical too. But it's meant to be kind of I wouldn't call it I don't think it was a beer and pretzels game, but it's not too far off for a lot of people.
Well, it can be.
It can be.
So in D&D is generic in the sense that it doesn't pick your tone. So when you sit down to play, you can cut up and tell jokes and roll your dice. And as long as you are cool with the results of the dice, whether you're successful or not, you have a good time, it can be beer and pretzels. Especially when we're not talking about maybe third edition. Some people may not consider it that way because for them it's a little too complex. But D&D can be beer and pretzels. But D&D can be, everybody once they put their butts in seats, they're talking in character. That kind of thing is table specific, not the game. The game itself doesn't care because it doesn't matter how in character you are when you roll your dice.
Right. Interesting question from Shadowson. How do you guys feel about multi-class non-humans? And I'm not sure where he's going with that, but I do think, is multi-classing a D&D trope? Would that be something you think?
The thing is, it is kind of because D&D was first, pretty much. And by the time AD&D came around, there were others. So, and multi-classing started in AD&D. I don't think it was part of old D&D.
No, I don't think so.
So it might be something that they did that that they thought was necessary based on other games people were putting out. I'm not sure about the history of that. So I would say it's possible that it's a D&D invention and trope for AD&D. But what did you say? Is that a D&D thing? Is multi-classing a D&D thing?
A D&D thing, yeah.
Right. It's hard to tell. I don't know the history of some of these other games, and I don't know where Gygax et al. Got their ideas for being multi-classed. I know that in old D&D with the demi-humans, they had abilities that spanned the abilities of the other human classes. So an elf, it was good with weapons and casting spells. A dwarf was pretty much just a fighter. They didn't have anything special about them. And halfling was, I can't remember what halfling. Well, once halflings were finally inserted in, not an old D&D, but in the Moldvay, the Moldvay version of D&D.
The second basic game, yeah.
Yeah. So basic, the BX line of the game had the halfling, and I think they had thief abilities, if I'm remembering correctly, and they had fighter.
They had some. They were sneaky.
They were actually fairly decent at using their weapons too.
Yeah, though in OD&D they were described as they can go kind of like Tolkien described them. They by themselves they can be near invisible. That's all they said.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a way they were multi-classed, but not because the halfling was the race as class. So once I think to differentiate, and Gary Gygax when he came out with AD&D made sure to differentiate from old D&D.
Yeah.
For legal reasons or for other reasons as well.
He said tournament play. He wanted rules that were very codified, and he did that. But I think also it had something to do with getting away from Arneson. Ended up not really helping him out very much because I think he ended up paying a lot of bucks anyway. So
right.
So it's okay, buddy. You can be late as long as you show up, man.
Yes. So the multi-classing part potentially comes from how demi-humans worked in old D&D.
Yeah.
So he rejiggered it so they can multi-class, and but they had level limits and all that. Depending on stats, they can be a little higher. And then humans multi-classing. Well, humans had a dual class.
Yeah, that was a different beast.
Right. So you can. I'm not sure where the idea for that came from. I always thought that in low level play, the fact that demi-humans could multi-class, they usually were a little more powerful than low level human characters.
Yeah.
So if your game stayed around first to fourth, fifth level, then your humanoids are pretty much better, especially in old D&D.
Yes.
In AD&D, little less so because they had to spend so much experience points to go up because of the multi-classing issue. But humanoid multi-classing is kind of weird. I think I would prefer a few special classes that the demi-humans, if I was to rewrite, say, D&D, older D&D, instead of race as class, that you would have like 2 or 3 classes that were elves. Elves could be these 3 classes or something
Humans
like that.
could not be these. These were for elves. These were for
yeah.
We were talking that a little bit in Mud Sword, and I think I like that. I'm not against multi-class. I did find that in 3rd edition multi-class, the game got stupid.
Was 3rd edition multi-classing was very clunky.
Well, I thought mechanically it worked fine in the sense that you could do it. Figuring it out wasn't hard. Just read your save bonuses, read your attack bonuses, read your skill points. That got a little weird, but it got better. But the problem was, I thought it was just a massively wide road to the complete brocane.
Well, with spell casting classes, it was a very suboptimal choice.
Yeah. Oh, except for a few prestige classes.
Yeah, after the fact, they made some up. Yeah.
Most of it was poop. I agree.
Yeah.
Do you think these assumptions? So these assumptions, and I'm sure we don't all agree, but you and I kind of agree. Do you think that they lend a feel to D&D? When you have these assumptions and you sit down at the table, you expect D&D to have a certain feel then? Probably yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Max asked a good question before we get off multi-class. Why multi-class? Why multi-class in 3E when you already have Lego characters? Well, you want to build the best, dude. If you're building, then build it like crazy sauce. It's not enough to build a super boss fighter, but you want to build a fighter 5, ranger 3, rogue 4, wizard 6, where all the bonuses are the best. So you got to make it perfectly Lego. You could do better than just a regular fighter at 20th level. Come on.
Yeah, but in the Lego thing, really, if you couldn't multi-class in 3E, the whole Lego thing would be so underwhelming.
It would be.
I mean, with just say your player's handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, if that's the feel that we're looking for, do you? And this is gonna open up to everybody else too. I bet we're gonna get a lot of answers, and I hope Indigo doesn't take it personal. But do you think, therefore, there are any editions of D&D? Let's stick with just D&D. We're gonna forget the clones. I'm not even going down the OSR road. Any editions of D&D that you don't think are very D&D like? Fourth is the only one.
Fifth edition. Okay, what's bad about fifth edition isn't okay. So third edition strayed by removing level limits and stat limits. I think if third edition had kept those with level limits and stat limits,
it would have been interesting.
All the other stuff would have been of less import, I think. But with prestige classes, that's just another class. So you multi-class into it. So it's the same concept as taking a level of wizard or fighter and thief and druid and ranger ad nauseum. It's just another class. But I'm going to disagree. WoTC DnD. None of them are D&D like. Yes, they are.
Third edition was absolutely D&D like. 100%.
What makes they stray from the D&D formula, but to say that they are none of them are D&D like isn't true, because they all have many D&D tropes still there. They just take away probably the two most important ones, which are the race and class restrictions. Well, sure. Third edition has armor class, saving throws, levels, class, wizard, cleric, thief, all that stuff. It's almost identical, except with Thaco is different. Thaco, they changed how when you roll the die, what specifically you need to be successful, but you still have an armor class, you still have a D20, and you add bonuses, take away penalties, and then there's a result, and that target number is what you need to hit, and that's this. It's just a little tweak.
Yeah, in fact, I think 5e is D&D like too.
Yeah, so with 5e, I think strays a little bit farther, but it's not as far as 4e. 5e is a lot more like 3e than 4e was, and none of them are like second edition or first edition,
right?
In many aspects. Primarily, everybody can be anything.
Yeah,
and a halfling can be just as strong as a human.
Yeah. Now Max says so does 4e, but I disagree, because it doesn't have the tropes. For example, it doesn't have armor class. Not really. It has reflex defense and fortitude defense and armor class and will. The saving throws were different in the sense that you attacked a saving throw. I attack your reflex. I attack your will. If I'm doing that correctly, Indigo can shout in here. It's been a while since I played it. It was more like 13 days. So I don't think that was as D&D like. I think I don't think the reliance on the minis made any difference in any edition. I think you could still have castles. The monsters were more or less the same in most of the editions. 4E had a lot of weird push-pull mechanics. Attacks of opportunities a little bit off for 3E. But I don't think it's hard for me to. I don't look at 3E or 5E and go, oh, that's not D&D. But I do look at 4E and say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get Max hates WoTC DnD. I get it. It's
yeah. This is all subjective. So
his assumptions are very different than ours.
Yeah.
He has some others that
there is enough similarities to see, I see how this is D&D, but there are enough differences to say this isn't the D&D I like. I don't like the fact that they did these things. And it's taken a lot of play through third edition to come to that realization for me.
Yeah.
I think it's the dumbest thing ever for a halfling to be able to have a 20 strength at first level, which is possible.
Yeah. What about this, Shadow and Sun? This brings up, I remember the first time Joe and I, not the first time we ever butted head, but when we butted heads on third edition, and we weren't even playing together at the time. We were just talking. He was living around Maryland. Shadow and Sun says, I made characters train for years to change professions. I'm cool with that. And I talked about in 3rd edition, what you could do is you could take 3 levels of wizard and say, I'm going to be a barbarian now. I think there might have been a requirement of a 9 strength or something weak like that. So you could be a barbarian and just decide to take the level. You didn't have to do any kind of role-playing approach. The DM didn't have to make you train. You could just do, I'm doing it. Now you could, as a DM option, make them train, make them do this. Yeah, it was kind of, and after a while I got tired of fighting it. Not with Joe just worrying about it all the time. So I let players switch classes, take 2 levels of this, and it got dumb.
So yes, your carrying capacity is different, Bruce. That is true. However, in all things that really count, your 20 strength has the same combat as a halfling combat advantages as a human with a 20 strength.
Yeah.
So that's where I balk at. There's no way. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just even envisioning without magic items, lots of magic items, I couldn't see a halfling.
Yeah, barring magic. Yeah, a halfling is the size of a child and should probably only be nominally stronger than one.
This is an interesting analysis. I don't know if I agree with it. Max.
No, I've heard him say this before too.
Oh, 3E is rugby AD&D is rugby AD&D. No,
right. 3E is rugby, AD&D is football.
Just because the ball is similar, people mash it into each other doesn't make it the same feel. Okay. Does it have the same assumptions though? I think so. So maybe you're disagreeing that the feel is not as tightly connected to the assumptions as I would say it is.
Yeah.
I think have the same feel, even with similarities.
I would say the better analogy in this respect is they're both football, but football from the 40s compared to football from 2022.
Yeah.
They're very different, but they're very similar. But they're still both football.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. That's the analogy I would make. Because you're still using all the same dice, you're still using all the same mostly all the same mechanics. It's the problematic parts are halflings can be paladins. And you have what are those? Tieflings. I mean, they're even player character races.
Yeah,
orcs, even worse.
I think for me, my dissonance didn't come at 3rd edition, even though there was some changes in how we played the game. I mean, that it's fair for Max to say the game definitely plays very differently, but I thought all the tropes were there. I didn't have any issue. I just felt like I could do whatever. There was maybe more options, but we could play fighter, wizard, cleric, rogue, sit down, and go for it. And I would feel like all those things are happening. He says, then cool, then a Palladium Fantasy and MERP have D&D feel. I don't know MERP.
Well,
I would say probably not. Palladium Fantasy, probably not, but I don't know. You might be right. What do you think?
No.
I don't think so.
Well, Palladium, maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't played it that much, but Middle Earth, no, probably not. Middle Earth has is fairly different, but no. Here's the thing, Max, as well as us, we all have our biases.
Oh, sure.
And we're not going to agree.
No way.
Max really hates 3rd edition. We played it its whole run. The entire run of 3rd edition. We played it. We had a lot of fun.
We did.
But after all that play, I realized the issues. Mm-hmm. And I agree with many of the issues Max has with it. Yeah. Not to the same degree. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to agree.
We're not. No, we agree to a degree.
Oh, sure. But that's okay. I mean, 3rd edition, I played it enough to where I thought I was done with it, but I had this inkling in the back of my mind that I did not want to get rid of it, and I'm glad I didn't, because I am prepping a 3.0 game I've already prepped it for this coming weekend for my buddy Tim and his boys, and it's going to be fun.
All right, so we got any more?
No, I feel like
assumptions?
I think I've hit everything that I wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to let the OSR.
You don't want to. We don't want to touch on the OSR at all.
I mean, I don't know. So do you think the OSR is mostly clones of other versions of D&D. So I would imagine it keeps most of the tropes. I know they go off the rails. I mean, Lamentation, Flame Princess has its feel. I'm sure is Chayalt by Avenger Satanis, is that a variant OSR game, or is that something?
I don't know if Chalt is supposed to be
Yeah,
OSR or not.
I'm not sure either. But I think a lot of those games are, Lion and Dragon take it down a true medieval path. So I would say those probably wouldn't feel as much like D&D. I wouldn't think Lion and Dragon would feel much like a D&D game to me. Just all the limitations that it has on casters and focus on true medieval fantasy. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's an OSR variant. It probably has a OSR feel, but that may or may not be D&D. Though you could argue, is there a OSR feel without D&D? That's why I'm not sure how it would even work.
I think for me, OSR is more a nostalgic grab at the old school of play, and in that, adventuring is dangerous. You're probably going to mow through a bunch of characters before one actually lives for a while. Which, old school, I think I'm probably confusing things, but OSR, I think, is more of a feel for, not a specific set of rules, but most of them do that I know of do at least port most either the BX rule set or the AD&D rule set.
Yeah. Sticking to
with little changes because they're going to put their spin on there.
Yeah. Or not pre-1990, maybe pre-2000 D&D. I guess it depends on who you talk to. Some say you got to be first edition or lower. Others say other. Yeah. Chalta's Gonzo sci-fi. Thanks, Cal. And Legion said it's not really a game. It isn't a game. It's more of a supplement. Okay.
Oh, okay. Setting type thing. Well, keep me away from one-page D&D, and I won't tell you how much of a scalper you are to the spirit of the game. How dare you not want to lug around 178 pounds of books in a sea bag to a game table?
That's
no,
about.
we milk crates. We carried the milk crates.
Yeah, we did. And don't forget 223 pounds of minis.
That's a lot of minis.
Or it's just a few metal minis.
Yeah, a few metal ones, like 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. I think that's all I had to say. And again, we didn't answer any questions. We just kind of talked about those things. And I don't think you can. I mean, you talk about feel and style and tone.
That's all subjective.
Pretty subjective, yeah. Even though we're trying to get to some assumptions, I think we hit some ones that a lot of folks didn't complain about. But I knew the additions would be tougher to wrap your mind around if we thought ones were. Because I'm sure Indigo, if he's still out here, and others might thought 4E was perfectly D&D. I don't see how, but I guess they could. I mean, and I'm not going to argue that much about it. I really don't care. It's just not for me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on to the next segment?
Sure thing. Gaming on the cheap.
Yeah.
With rising prices in just about all sectors, especially our gas, which is what we use to get around.
Yep.
I felt it good to try to give some folks some good ways to save some money gaming. And I'll start out with saying the best way you can save money is to not buy anything. But many of us in this hobby like to add to our collection. And if it's not taking food out of your mouth, then fine. Or you may not care about your family members. So as long as you're eating, you might be fine. But yeah, most of us have books, or we have friends with books, or we know someone with books that we can go over late one night when no one's around and take their books.
Right. I mean, all we got to do is get a key to a couple of our friends, and we can have a lot of stuff. Key to their house. Now, I wonder, So besides the fact that I'm not buying any books to save money, if you really want a game on the cheap, do you think? I think the first thing that should probably go is peripheral stuff. If it's that important, no minis, no maps, no cards, no more minis, no more maps, no more cards, no more extra dice. Now we're talking any role playing game, and that would be that'd be a big place to begin to save money for me anyway.
The extra stuff, yeah. So just keep it to the main books and
core books only, not all the extra splats. Yeah. Oh, what's Bruce say?
Bruce says that Cal Vanoni and I will be able to actually smelt our unpainted and unwanted figurines to where we can make bullets and barter for gasoline like a wanderer in the wasteland.
You lucky ducks. Mm-hmm.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Well, lots of people can't really melt their minis and make bullets because they're plastic.
Yeah, that would be me. Most of my minis would be plastic. I do have my original metals, but not much. What about games that are free?
Right. I have one here. I think I still have it up. Yes. Something that came across my desk. No, when I was on Twitter, I had a couple of decent for Twitter exchanges, and this came up. Let me move that to there, and then
drag that.
Share. Clickety click. I hate all these freaking clicks.
You love them. Liar.
Click.
Ooh.
This is free. It's 10 pages, and it's fantasy, adventure, war, and pulp science fiction. This is, I believe, a short version of a longer work. These folks have setting material as well. But I skimmed through it earlier today, and it looks like a fairly complete, though brief, game.
Yeah,
it has more stats than D&D has, but I believe it uses additional stats to cover class.
Mm-hmm.
So you have piety, bardic voice, and appearance, and discipline as stats. And let's see, what are they missing? Charisma. So I guess charisma is kind of broke out into more stats. So you have appearance, which a lot of people put chalk up to charisma, and I don't know, discipline and bardic voice. Those are kind of presence type things. But yeah, this is a whole game.
Mm-hmm.
You need a single D20 to play, and you need a game master.
Wow. Yeah.
So you can't buy a game master at the store, unfortunately.
No, they're very expensive to purchase.
Yeah.
Now that's a free one. Here's the one. Now I would love to know if there's any better than this one. Max pointed this one out, and I have a lot of the stuff. Basic Fantasy. That's completely free, and I believe it's basically some sort of 1E variant, and only at cost for the physical copy. The core book is $5, and you get a pretty rich set of rules with monster books and adventures. You can download all that for free, and they have a boatload of books and stuff. So if you want a D&D experience and want to go cheap, I mean, is there a better free game out there than Basic Fantasy in terms of robust? Let me say better, more robust free game. Because the game you said could be awesome if we played it, but like you said, what is it? 3-4 pages?
It's 10.
Oh, it's 10. So Basic Fantasy is like 100 and something.
12. Sorry.
Yeah. But the point is there a better one? I don't know than Basic Fantasy. That's really the cheap. Even the core 5e free PDF is smaller than. No, maybe it's not. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I won't say that. But I know this is more robust than the core 5e one because you only go levels 1 to 3 or 5 or something.
In Basic Fantasy?
No, in 5e free PDF, you go like levels 1 to, I think you go levels, I could be wrong. Maybe it's 1 to 20, but they don't have as many options.
Yeah, it's a stripped down thing, but I think it's the full range of levels.
Because I know this one is.
No feats.
Basic Fantasy is full range, and I don't think you get all the not skills. What are those things you get? Not talents. Instead of a feat, you could pick a. Oh, I'm screwed up. Now.
Stat boost. 5e?
Yeah,
You're talking about,
never mind. I was lost. Yeah,
all right.
I do think basic fantasy is pretty hard to beat, and they have some really good adventures that I've used. They translate well. Their mechanics are simple. Ascending armor class, basically 1 So,
and that earlier thing that we did at the beginning with the eBay minis. So if you need minis, or you just can't say no.
Yeah,
you can get 6 for $5, and you can there's probably more. That's just the one deal that someone else pointed out. Yeah. I'm sure that there's multiple.
CBK Ply says world building games to play with your players as gods to build a setting is called Dawn of Worlds. I've wanted to do that with our players. We never did it. I've also got a game called Microscope. Dawn of Worlds is free, however, so that's a really good choice there. I believe it's free. What about buying PDFs instead of hard copies? That's usually cheaper. Not from WoTC, but from those places where you get quite a discount, 50% or more if you buy a PDF.
Right, and there's the bundled holding where you can multiple for pretty cheap.
Yeah, you can get a boatload for very cheap. Bundled holding is great. What about this one, which is not? I know Joe and I aren't fond of this. What about playing online now that gas is so high?
It might be. I mean, if everybody's local, I mean, gas would have to be really steep for it to be to say, well, I can't drive to your house, Randy, because gas.
Right.
It'd have to be really expensive, and it's not that expensive at this point. But yes, at some point, I mean, some people are predicting it to go over $10 a gallon.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it's already near that over on the West Coast, from what I understand.
That's wrong.
That is a good alternate to save some money. I mean, there's lots of savings there, right? Different kinds.
Yeah.
You don't have to clean your house. You don't have to wear pants. And a lot of gameplay can be subsumed into the role-playing system tabletop, the virtual tabletop you're using. If you're not using a virtual tabletop and you're just using something like we've got here, like a Zoom, and you can still roll your dice, or you could do virtual dice rollers. Everything can be digital.
Yeah.
In which case you're not. Well, some VTTs actually cost money. To use. Yeah. Especially extra features.
Oh, Zoom is not free. Well, if you want more than one or two people, Zoom is not free.
Right. Skype might be a better option that way. I'm sure that there are other.
Wearing pants is one of the downers. Thanks, Arn Man.
Yeah. I tell my wife all the time, do I have to put, well, no, she's the one who asks me because she's trying to be funny. Do I really have to put pants on?
No, you do not.
We're going outside, hun.
Well, Larry Elliott says, what if I go to someone's house to game? I have to wear pants. Yes, Larry, you have to wear pants tomorrow, but not for me.
Yes.
All the other guys.
And before anybody else says this, yes, if you come over to my house, you cannot take your pants off.
Oh, man. Joe is such a stickler for crap like that. You take your pants off once at his house and he loses his crap.
The pants must stay on.
What about this? This is an out-of-the-box thought. What if you play longer but less frequently? Instead of 3 to 4 hour sessions, what if you go, we're going to play 10 hours once a month? We're going to play.
I'm all for longer sessions.
No, I'm saying you don't have as many, but you
sure.
You have the big Saturday session. We're going to start at 10 a.m. and we're playing until 10 p.m. Going to take breaks for eating, but we're going to hit it hard. Then I'll see you same time next month. That'll cut down the gas on it.
Right. Sure. Everybody, and less. You might even have less coordination to worry about.
Sure. Just one day you got to set apart. Max says 8 hours every week or it's not a game. He's probably right there.
I think he is.
I think he is.
That's one thing I've been complaining about for a long time.
Yep.
Oh, hi, it's 7. We can't get together till 7. Okay. Oh, it's 10. We got to quit.
Well, and it's kind of tough though. I mean, in our group, you're one of the guys that can't start till later, And I start 10 o'clock. Old man Randy starts. It's
Right.
hard for me to keep pushing. It's not that I don't want to. I'll tell you, the last 2 times we played where I've DM'd, I was just tired. And I mean, it's ridiculous, you know? So, what's this, Cal? So that rule was because of Randy? 8 hours every week? What rule? Yeah,
Maybe
probably.
the pants. Maybe the pants.
The pants.
Talking about
Yes.
the pants?
Yes. Because I like that's as a rule of thumb when I visit someone. The first time I go to their house, I wear pants. The second time, I wear pants, but I excuse myself. No, I never did that. I don't think I did. So yeah, no, I keep my pants on, but it sounded
Yes. Yeah. So gaming at our advanced number of years can be a challenge, and still being in the workforce. So having to work the next day, or having just gotten out of work. I mean, even doing the podcast, the live stream here. The good thing is today my load was light, even though I had to work a little later. It wasn't so taxing, so I'm not as foggy brained as I can be after a full day of work. Same thing with gaming. If I work until 6 and had a heavy load, and I come to the game, I can be like, ugh. And then if I have to work the next day,
yeah.
Then
Dude,
we can't.
CBK is serious, dude. Start at lunch, end at midnight or later. It's not worth it for my group, and most of us are family. Is that a weekly thing? No way. That's got to be like that's cool, though. If you do that weekly, man, fight the power, bro.
Right. And I think you would have less coordination issues if you picked one day and just played longer. Probably.
Well, I think you would. Yeah. Work does get in the way. Buddy Larry can't wait for retirement. Me too, brother. Then it's D&D all the time. Wake up from our nap, finish the D&D. Go get our applesauce, finish the D&D. That's what I'm talking about.
No, we're going to all of the, fast food places.
Fast food places.
Remember?
That's right.
I already qualify for senior menu. So we get the senior menu, play D&D, throw a dice at the
Do
folks
you
that
at
work
your
there.
age, Joe? Because I'm going to be your age.
I thought it was 55. I'm 55.
Oh my gosh!
I'm pretty sure senior menu starts at 55 in a lot of places.
Qualifying soon. Dang it. Yes, you are, Max. Do it, baby.
Yes, we made this plan years ago. When we retire, we're going to go around and play D&D at McDonald's and Burger King and all these places.
That's how we're going to do it. Drink coffee. I won't drink coffee, but we'll be playing. That'll be sweet.
The park. We'll roll up next to somebody who's already sitting at a table. Say, you want to play?
Dude, Shadow and Son is one of our peeps. Dude, look at that age. Represent. That's what I'm going to be before you. I'm older than you by about a month. All right. 8 more years for Bruce. That's all right. We got some good peeps in here. Yeah, Patrick is training me. Well, trying to train us with Earthdawn. I like it. All right. So yeah, that's any other ideas for cheap gaming? We can hit some big ones. I think that one I'm excited about the playing longer. Maybe we should just do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we should just say, we're going to have a Saturday and we're going to make it happen. Arn man, look at him coming here trying to be trying to be the boss. He's flexing at 62. Oh, Cal's 57. Sweet. I'm doxing everybody.
You don't understand doxing. You don't understand doxing.
I know. Oh yeah, Max is one of the youngins. That's why he doesn't understand 3rd edition. He will one day.
48.
It'll be
so
cool.
long ago.
Such a long time ago. Oh, all right.
I was 48 in Obama when Obama was president. I think 7 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been.
That was Obama.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Darth is coming in a tad younger. That's fun. Good. Everybody's telling the truth. Yeah, Martinson, you and Darth. Okay. What about the last segment? You want to do this one, or do you want to call it a night? What you feel like? It's 9:44.
Oh. How about we do this as let's bump this to the next one.
Okay. It wasn't a long one, guys, but it's a good one because I thought of it. So
bump it to next week.
Yeah.
And as a teaser, we will be discussing the merits of having an evil campaign where the PCs are evil.
Correct. That is going to be one. That won't be a main topic. It'll be a subtopic. We're going to do something else also. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how much mileage we're going to get out of it because we're both going to say practically the same thing, I believe.
Yeah, let's not give it away. They probably can guess, but
You know what? We might be able to do this if we can find somebody to have an opposing opinion about it.
ooh.
Who listening here tonight is in favor of having an evil campaign or thinks that's fun?
Yeah. Who thinks that's a really cool, fun thing to do? And would you like to be a guest next week? Anybody in the CBK's 37. We got to playing since he's 9. Represent, son.
Someone says they're 9.
No, he's been playing since he's 9. He's only 37.
Yeah, we've been playing since before you were 9.
That one.
We were 13.
12, 13, yeah.
We were we're practically the same age. So 13, and I'm 55. That's 30, 40.
Yep.
42 years ago.
Right. Max says he's run a few evil gnomes, but was the campaign okay?
Games.
That'll be part of it too, though, right? Oh, Darth says, hell yeah, evil campaign would be cool. Wonder if Darth would want to join us. Here's what you do. Run 2 Oh, I've thought of that one, Bruce. Dig this. Here's what you do. You run 2 campaigns in the same world with different people. One is sponsored by a church, one by a guild with opposing goals. You don't need an evil campaign. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. Been playing 42 years.
Yeah, Iron Man may have us here. 2022, 40, looks like 45.
Yeah, well, he's older than us, though.
Yeah, that's not fair. It was fair with CBK. It was fair that we were older than him, but it's not fair that Iron Man's older than us. Yeah, I like that. Oh, Max says evil campaigns work better than the heroic ones. Interesting. So you're a fan of them. Interesting. Well, I want to get Max on here anyway, so maybe we'll think about that. Send us an email, or we'll contact you on your show, Max, or anybody else. If Darth wants to get in there, that's cool too. It'd be fun to have a third opinion, someone that really feels strongly that evil's awesome.
Yeah, because we're going to say the same thing.
We are. We're going to say Max is wrong.
I'll be the paladin at the plant, and
Max,
then
Max never had a good fun campaign with evil characters. He's lying to us. That's All right, guys. I think we got to get out of here. So, anyway, guys, if you'd like to support our show, please visit the many places you can find us. On our website, biggestgeekestpodcast.com. You can click on the support tab. Twitter, Facebook, MeWe, Odyssey. We're on Twitch now, you said? We're streaming live on Twitch?
Yeah, we're streaming on Twitch as long as it's still up. I did not keep up there's no way for me to know one way or the other.
Shadow says that he's game. Maybe we'll get him on. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
If Max is too busy, he might want to. Steal away, Max. You can have this segment. Go for it. YouTube, email the geeks at biggestgeekestpodcast.com. Show this to your friends. Support us by just sharing and liking wherever you share and like stuff. Please subscribe. Have your friends subscribe. Wait a minute. What is Bruce talking about?
I don't know. What is a guild objective sponsor?
Okay. Yeah. You can be our sponsor. I knew what it was. It'd be great.
It could be inside. That could be an inside joke.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Could be an inside joke.
Right. So, man, thanks, guys. This has been a good interaction. It was so much fun. And it was most fun was seeing how Max was wrong. But love you, Maximus. But anyway, I think we're out of here. And thanks, guys, for showing up. Thanks, everybody, to listen. Even if you didn't comment, it was really fun. This is Randy.
And this is Joe.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.